Welcome back. We're going to alter the schedule a little bit moving forward because of what is happening currently in Iran. We were going to have a lecture devoted to Guantanamo Bay, Camp X-Ray, as it was originally known, but in light of events in Iran, I've decided to shelve that lecture. We will touch on Guantanamo Bay in the Iraq Reloaded unit when we discuss Abu Ghraib. So that's going to be out of the picture. There's 5 lectures now on 9/11. I want to give us some space here as events develop in Iran. So, what are we doing today? Well, we're going to invade Afghanistan. The story of Afghanistan is a long one, it is a tortured one, and it is a tragic one. We're going to learn about the Taliban. We're going to learn about their ally, Al Qaeda, and how we got to a situation in which radical Islamists like the Taliban were able to take control of this country and give safe haven to a group like Al Qaeda. The story begins 30 years ago. Oops, I knocked into the camera there. 30 years ago, 1979. 1979 is the Soviet Union invades Afghanistan ostensibly to protect what they claimed was a democratically elected socialist government. Of course, it was in no way, shape, or form the case. The invasion by the Soviets by what the natives termed a godless people led to native resistance, not surprisingly. Native resistance, in Arabic, is called mujahideen. It's a catch-all term, and it can be spelled a variety of ways. You may have seen it spelled slightly differently than that. This is because Arabic, as we've seen, is transliterated, and we are simply, in English, writing the sounds of the words. Mujahideen you can translate as resistance fighter, freedom fighter, militiaman, armed guerrilla, what have you, standing up to the forces of the immensely more powerful Soviet Union. As this was a Cold War, if the Soviets are somewhere, well, the United States is not going to be far behind. The United States' response, politically, to the invasion of Afghanistan was to boycott the 1980 Moscow Olympics by the order of President Jimmy Carter. But that's not all. Because soon after the Soviets arrive, Americans arrive in the form of the CIA. In fact, there was a Tom Hanks movie made quite recently called Charlie Wilson's War, which is about American and CIA aid to the Mujahideen. For those fans of the James Bond films, one of the Timothy Dalton pictures, I can't remember the name of it, from the 1980s, is meant to take place in an Afghanistan which is being partially occupied by the Soviet Union. Spies Like Us, Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase from, I think, 1984, also takes place partially in Afghanistan. You're probably all too young to have even heard of those movies, but maybe you haven't. So we have then, during the 1980s, the Soviets and the Americans fighting another one of our proxy wars, as had been fought in various places around the world during the second half of the 20th century. In 1988, a defeated Soviet Union exits stage left. They pull their troops out. What has often been called the Soviet Vietnam ends tragically, and some Soviet experts argue that the catastrophe, the nearly 10-year catastrophe in Afghanistan, was a contributing factor to the collapse of the Soviet system 3 years later. Whether that's true or not, this quagmire certainly did not help an ailing Soviet state. In 1988, they leave. Well, if the Soviets are no longer there, guess who is no longer interested in being there? Us. The United States of America and the CIA also leave Afghanistan shortly after the Soviets. This leaves a power vacuum. A power vacuum that by 1996 will be filled with Islamist mujahideen, who now call themselves the Taliban. The name Taliban derives from the word talib, which simply means student in Arabic. The Taliban called themselves the students of Islamic knowledge. And in 1996, they took control of Kabul and the government of Afghanistan, instituting a very strict Islamist vision of society. An Islamist vision that makes culture in Saudi Arabia seem positively free and open by comparison. Women's rights were non-existent. Religious minorities' rights were non-existent. You were either with the Taliban or you were against them. There was no middle ground in this debate. One of the outside aides to the Mujahideen, besides the United States of America, was a young Saudi man, Osama bin Laden. We briefly met Osama. We discussed Saudi Arabia because it's his father's family in the form of the bin Laden Group, which is the primary construction company in Saudi Arabia and is responsible for nearly all of the major projects that the Saudi royal family has undertaken in the last 20 or 30 years. It's a massive company, extraordinarily valuable. Estimates are that it's worth $36 billion. And it's this wealth that will allow Osama bin Laden to go to Afghanistan during the 1980s and to join the fight against the godless Soviet invaders. The name of his headquarters in Afghanistan was simply the base, or the headquarters in Arabic, which is Al Qaeda. Thus the name of the organization. We have an excellent piece of secondary source scholarship on Al Qaeda. It's written by Jason Burke, 2004, Foreign Policy Magazine. Burke lays out 9 misconceptions about Al Qaeda. Here in this article, what is it? What is Al Qaeda's goal? What is the importance of Osama bin Laden? Rather than spoon feed you this one, since we're getting into more advanced lectures, I'd like you to read this on your own. Come to your own conclusions, your own answers to these questions. What is Al Qaeda? What is Al Qaeda's goal? What is the importance of Osama bin Laden?